Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we are talking about The Incredibles. Released in 2004, written and directed by Brad Bird, and starring Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Jason Lee, and Samuel L. Jackson. There's a couple other people in there, but those are the main stars.
Yeah.
And this was, I was just looking at the runtime for this movie, 115 minutes, and I feel like not necessarily by today's standards. Across the Universe, I think, was 2 hours and 20 or something. But this was a fairly long animated film. I feel like most animated movies were 90 minutes or less, maybe, up until the past, I guess, 20 years. But I wondered if this was one of the longer, if I don't remember Finding Nemo or what, but Toy Story and Toy Story 2, I don't think got close to 2 hours. I think they were an hour and 40 maybe or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if this was like one of the longer animated films to come out. But anyway, I saw this in the theater. You were a teenager, I think, when it came out, right? So did you see this in the theater?
I did not see it in the theater. I didn't see it, and I can't even remember the first time I watched this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was. This was summer of 2014.
I think so. Yeah.
So
2004. 2004.
Oh, yeah, 2004. Why did I say 2014? I was 14 in 2004.
Right.
So I was going into high school. Yeah. I have no recollection of the first time that I watched this.
I was, depending on when it came out, what part of the summer, I was either 20 or 21. It's also hard to believe that this movie is going to be 20 years old next year. However, rewatching it today, the animation, of course, is not bad, but it's dated. You can tell Pixar and computer animation has come a long way in 20 years. And like, it still looks good.
Yeah.
But like their hair and certain things just look so much better in movies now than 2004.
It's the movement. Like I feel like now the hair, the textures, and just how the characters move. The animation now is so intuitive and just knows how physics work.
Mm-hmm.
And the physics is much more advanced with computer animation than it was back then. But that being said, this still looks fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like at no point did I, while watching it, think, man, this is hard to watch because the animation.
Yeah.
It's still amazing, but it's also just incredible to think how far the animation has come and how good it looks today.
Yeah. I was watching the first 3 Toy Story movies, and you can kind of see how each one gets a little bit better without necessarily changing the character design.
Right.
And it was very cool to see that progression. I was showing it to my daughter for the first time, and she loves Toy Story now. She's always asking for Buzz Right There.
That's cute. Buzz Right There. Yeah, and Toy Story 1 was 9 years before this movie. So this movie, compared to Toy Story 1, felt like we had come a long way with the animation. Because Toy Story 1, you watch that one, still a great movie, great story and everything, but that animation is a little rough, especially like the dog in that movie.
Yes, I agree.
You compare,
but it's only the humans. The toys, still look fine.
Yeah, they still look good.
Yeah, the humans and the dog, of course, they look a little weird, but
yeah, the dog definitely came a long way. Like you compare the dog, and I also love how the dog is so much older in the other movies and stuff.
Toy Story 3.
Yeah, but you compare the dog for the first movie and the third movie, and it's amazing the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't pop in Incredibles 2 after we watched this, or after I watched this one, but I'd be curious to compare the animation because that one came out so much later that I bet it's what's the word I'm looking for? Not better, but like, just smoother or whatever.
Yeah, smoother. More streamlined.
More streamlined. So, I personally really enjoy this movie. It's a superhero movie, of course, so I'm a fan. It's not based on anything. They're original characters. But I think the premise is really, really good. And I love the kind of Art Deco style to it. It reminds me of Batman the Animated Series, where it's retro, but like futuristic. You don't really know what kind of time period it takes place in, because like the cars and the furniture in the houses and everything is very 1960s, but the technology and everything is way advanced.
Yeah, so very it's really 21st century.
It's very, very cool. It's kind of, there's a James Bond element to it too, with like the villain having his own island and the like big robots that are kind of protecting the island and everything, and all the traps he's got and everything. It's very Bond villain-esque, which I love.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about the movie is the retro futuristic aesthetic to it. You could tell Brad Bird was definitely a huge fan of Bond and like the golden age of superheroes. It was it's really throwback in the best way possible. And I love the idea of retro futurism for animation. I have a feeling that Superman Legacy is going to be retro futuristic.
And you don't think it'll translate as well to live action?
I'm not saying that it wouldn't translate well. It's just for live action, it's not my preference.
Sure.
But I am interested to see how he makes it work. I hope he does it a little bit better than Superman Returns. I like Superman Returns, but Superman Returns didn't feel retro futuristic. It felt like a period piece, even though I knew it was supposed to be taking place in present day.
Yeah,
it just looked very 70s.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of threw me off. Whereas this, or Batman the Animated Series, I could kind of suspend my disbelief and kind of believe that it takes place in present day, even though Batman the Animated Series looked like it was like in the 40s, and this looks like it's in the 60s. I can still suspend my disbelief,
right?
But I don't, hopefully it does translate a little bit better to live action when that movie comes out. But as far as this is the aesthetic of this is one of its best characteristics.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm curious about Superman Legacy. Maybe it'll work a little better with that film because it's not so much a sequel to the Christopher Reeve movies, which came out in the late 70s, early 80s. So maybe they were trying to kind of update it to present day, but also kind of match the aesthetic of that film. I don't know, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how it looks when it comes out, because there's a part of me that really likes Art Deco and retro futuristic stuff, but I don't know if it'll translate well in live action for Superman Legacy or not. If that's the way Gunn decides to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is just speculation on my part. Nothing has been confirmed or even alluded to, but that's kind of how I feel like this is gonna go.
Yeah. I am looking forward to. It's always fun to get like when the first look of him in the suit comes out. I'm always anticipating that when they did that with Robert Pattinson for the Batman. It's usually because they're gonna start shooting some exterior stuff and they know the paparazzi's gonna be there and get a shot of it, so they'd rather release it first rather than have some paparazzi photo be how it is revealed to the public. But yeah, when that video came out of Robert Pattinson in the suit, that was really fun to watch. And we were all like, because we all, there's fan art that always comes out as soon as somebody is cast in one of these iconic roles. And it's fun to see how far away or similar, that fan art is to the real thing. I remember thinking when the Robert Pattinson video first came out, how the mask was so different than what I was expecting the mask to look like. It was the very Adam West large, most of the masks we've seen only reveal this much of the face, and it went like all the way back. It was fun to analyze it and see the suit, and so I'm looking forward to when we get a first look reveal of David Corenswet in the Superman suit.
Agreed. I'm definitely looking forward to it. How do you feel about the suits in this movie?
I like them a lot. I like how he's got that blue suit in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's another aspect of the movie that I really liked, which is obviously a major part of the movie. Is how the movie opens up with like old interview kind of documentary footage of these heroes, and again, it looks very 60s ish. And Mr. Incredible is in his prime, looks like a superhero, very in shape and everything. And then cut to present day or however many years later it is. I'm not actually sure. And he's gotten out of shape. And so when he first puts on the suit and everything, it doesn't quite fit him as well. And and then I like how they work into the movie the updated suits. And I think the red looks better than the blue, but I do like them a lot. And it's, I think the whole matching thing works because it's the family, the Incredibles. So
yeah,
I do like the suits. What about you?
I agree. I agree with everything you said. I going back to him like putting on the suit and then not fitting. I remember the trailer for this movie.
Yeah, I did too.
He was trying to put on the suit and he banged the table and was trying to buckle the belt, and I was so upset that wasn't in the movie.
I agree. I feel like I wonder if that was a deleted scene or if that was made specifically for the trailer.
I think that was a deleted scene. Because I remember, I don't know where I was. I think I might have been at like Alex's house or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching it on Blu-ray, because this was before Disney Plus had come out. So I remember watching it on Blu-ray, and I think that scene was on there. I could be mistaken, but
I'll have to. I have the Blu-ray here, and with this terrible cover. And I'll have to see if it's got deleted scenes on it anywhere. I'm not sure if it does or not. It might just have the trailer even. But I think I remember being a little disappointed too that scene wasn't it, because that was such a funny scene from the trailer.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
So good.
They do that a lot with superhero movies now.
Where they
Marvel is notorious for it.
That's true. Yeah, Marvel is very well known for putting stuff in the trailer that's not in the movie, or having a shot in the trailer that's in the movie, but a character is cut out of it or inserted into it or something. Like I remember,
if it's a spoiler, that's fine.
Right.
But I was upset with that the helmet kiss wasn't in Iron Man 2. I was like, right. That was funny. I wanted to see funny. That.
Yep, I agree. And there's a shot of from Infinity War, the Infinity War trailers, that slow motion shot of them all running, and Hulk is one of the characters running, and that is obviously not in the movie.
Well, that I'll give them that. That was supposed to be in the movie, and then they decided to change it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was
So I'll give them that. That they had intended on putting that in the movie, because he was supposed to bust out of the suit, and then that scene was supposed to happen, but that didn't happen.
Maybe they changed. I don't know if that got leaked or something. I think they even there was like a prototype Funko Pop that never got released of the Hulk, like busting out of the Hulk Buster suit. But I think we all expected that to happen, and then it didn't happen in the movie. But
yep.
But anyway, it would have been cool to see. But anyway, back to Incredibles. I didn't take a lot of notes for this movie, but I've got it playing. I watched it. We were supposed to record a couple weeks ago, so I've got it on to kind of refresh my memory. And one of the things that I just remembered was his boss at the insurance company. I love
Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, I love Wallace Shawn, his portrayal and everything. But the character to me looks like Stephen King. Every time I see him, I think of Stephen King.
He does look a little like Stephen King.
Doesn't sound like him or anything, but it looks like him to me.
I always wondered who could they get to do a live action if they did. So like I'm in the part where I'm on the part where he's at work now. He's talking to I don't know his name, but he kind of set up the whole superhero secret identity thing.
Yeah.
I was like, that guy could be like Tommy Lee Jones.
He looks exactly like Tommy Lee Jones. I thought the same thing. Yep. The boss looks like Stephen King, and that guy looks like Tommy Lee Jones. I think I feel like that was on purpose, maybe because it's not close enough to where they had to pay like likeness rights or anything. But I feel like it was definitely inspired by Tommy Lee Jones. For sure.
And I honestly think a younger Craig T. Nelson could have been Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, probably. This is interesting. So I think you're just a tiny bit behind where I am because I saw that scene with Tommy Lee Jones, and and now he's got basically a tablet that was given. I'm not gonna remember her name, but Syndrome's assistant, the woman,
Mirage.
Yeah, that's what it is. And Mirage is talking, trying to kind of basically get Mr. Incredible on board to do this like secret mission. And it's basically, it looks like an iPad. It's basically an iPad, which was before iPads, I think, even came out. So didn't Apple have something to do with Pixar?
Yeah. Steve Jobs co-created Pixar.
Pixar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe that was on purpose to kind of look like an iPad.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it. Also, this chick, Mirage, she looks like one of the villains in Jurassic World Dominion that had the raptors.
Yes, she does. You're right. She looks exactly like her. Wow,
she looks exactly like her.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. Yeah, the one that gets hit with the cattle prod, and she's like, "It's not supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be." Yeah.
That movie was.
Oh man, it was. But this is not a bad movie.
This is not a bad movie. This is a great.
It's a very good movie. And going back to what you said about the plot, I love the concept of this movie. I love the plot. It was way ahead of its time.
Yeah,
absolutely. This movie is like the precursor to Civil War. Just the story in general, not even the movie, just the story in general of superheroes having to relinquish their superhero duties and their secret identity having to become their only identity. Like that was way ahead of its time, and it was I don't know if Civil War was inspired by this or not. Probably not. I might be reaching, but I just thought that it was interesting to take that. And they even though this is a kids movie, this is a family friendly movie. They definitely take it serious and make the issue plausible and believable. With all the collateral damage that superheroes are causing, and it's just a really interesting concept for the type of movie that it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember thinking when I was watching it that even though it is a family movie, it's a PG movie, there's some stuff in it that you're
pretty dark sometimes.
Yeah, it can be pretty dark, and there's a couple things in it that you don't really expect in a Disney family movie. Like in the beginning, and that's one of the things you were talking about, the premise of the movie. I love the idea that these superheroes are getting in trouble. People are suing them, and there was a guy that in the beginning of the movie that was trying to commit suicide, and Mr. Incredible saves him, and then he's the one that sues Mr. Incredible because he didn't want to be saved.
Right.
And so that whole concept is kind of dark for a family friendly movie, and that's the catalyst for what causes these superheroes to hang up their capes. And have, become what you said, their secret identity becomes their only identity. And I think was a brilliant kind of inciting incident, I guess.
Absolutely. I think that credit should go to Brad Bird, because he's been known for doing mature stories and those mature type concepts and plot points, because he created the Iron Giant,
right,
which in itself comes from a dark place. I believe one of his family members was killed by someone with a gun, and he took that concept. He was like, what if a gun didn't want to be a gun? And that's how he created the Iron Giant. I was like, man, that's brilliant. And eventually we're gonna talk about that movie, because I think that's one of the greatest animated films ever, and no one talks about it.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just watched. I'm really, really behind on Ted Lasso. But there's the episode I just watched. They go to Liverpool, I think, and Ted Lasso is like, "All right, everybody ready for movie night or something?" He makes the whole team watch the Iron Giant.
Yeah,
and it shows the team. They look kind of bored watching the movie and stuff. And as he's talking to the assistant coach, and he gets up and he's like, well, just be prepared because I forget what the time he said. He's like, in 28 minutes, he's like, there's gonna be a room full of crying men in this.
Yep.
And the assistant coach is like, oh, I know, and he like pulls up tissues or something. He's like, I'm gonna be one of them. And I think it cuts later, and it's like towards the end of the movie, and they're all like, they're really into it at that point. It was pretty funny.
That movie is awesome. I can't wait to talk about that movie.
That'll be a good one. That'll be fun to talk about. And it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm really looking forward to rewatching it.
I hadn't watched it for the first time until last year, and I was like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. How have I not watched this movie yet?
Yeah, you're right. And like you said, I mean, people do. I hear about it occasionally, but it's not a movie that's talked about often, and it's not a movie that you see very often on like people's top 10 lists or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
it's because it's not Disney. Disney has such a chokehold on animation that when it's not Disney, it's like it doesn't exist.
Right.
Anastasia. Anastasia is a fantastic film. No one talks about it because it's not Disney.
Right. My wife likes that movie, but I've actually never even seen that movie. I'm trying to see if we own it.
It's good. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Page Master, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. No one talks about it because it's not Disney.
Yeah. That was one, I've never seen that one either, actually. That was one I really wanted to see as a kid, and I never did.
I think you'll like it.
I might. I love the opening sequence of this film, too, where it's Mr. Incredible is in a tuxedo, and we don't really know where he's going, but he's like, things keep popping up, crimes and little old ladies whose cat is stuck in a tree, and he keeps looking at his watch going, I've still got time, and at one point even Frozone, played by Samuel L. Jackson, shows up and he's like, shouldn't you be getting ready? And he's like, I've still got time. And we find out that and he even has like an little flirtatious encounter with Elastigirl, and then we find out that what he was getting ready for was the wedding with Elastigirl. And he actually arrives late to it, and she gets a little mad. I
want to say this. How is she gonna be mad at him for being late when she was out too? She only got there maybe a couple of seconds before he did.
Probably true, but she and Frozone beat him to the wedding. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he also, this isn't a big deal, but he's the only one that says I do. And it's because of the way the scene is set up, because the preacher or whatever is talking, but they're having a conversation with each other, and his I do answers both.
Yes.
And then they're pronounced married. But I do remember thinking that, watching, I was like, he's the only one that said I do. She didn't have to say I do. But that's just because the scene wouldn't have been as good if they had done that.
Yes. And in that opening scene, we are introduced to Buddy.
Buddy, that's right.
Yeah.
Incrediboy.
Was played by Jason Lee.
Yep.
And he's an aspiring sidekick.
I love too that Jason Lee actually voiced Buddy, Incrediboy. Because they could have gotten a younger actor or something, but I think Jason Lee has such a distinct voice that it was smart of them to have him play Buddy, and then they just kind of changed the pitch on it a little bit and made him sound younger. It worked really well, and I love Jason Lee in this movie, and I'm a Jason Lee fan anyway. But I thought was perfectly cast, and I wonder if
I agree.
I wonder if Brad Bird had him in mind, or if it was just it just worked, because like he really was like the perfect casting choice for Syndrome.
Yeah, and he kind of looks like Syndrome a little bit too.
Right.
No, I agree. He was perfect. Syndrome. I wonder if they did like write that role specifically for him, because Syndrome has a lot of charisma. So does Jason Lee. I feel like Jason Lee was just playing himself.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah, kind of an evil version of himself. Have you ever seen Almost Famous?
A very long time ago.
He plays the lead singer of that band. The band that's that the main character is following around, and that's probably one of his best roles. He's so good in that movie.
Yeah.
He hasn't acted as much lately, I follow him on Instagram. He's kind of gotten into photography and stuff, and he has like photography and different art shows and stuff. But I haven't really seen him in much lately. But I used when he was doing a lot, and he was in all of Kevin Smith's movies and everything. Like, I was a huge Jason Lee fan. I thought he was just fun to watch. So
now I'm at the training montage.
Yeah, Mr. Incredible loses a little weight.
Yeah, going back. Let's go a little bit back. So he gets invited by Mirage to that island to fight this
robot. Yeah.
And I've always really liked that scene because you get to see how smart Mr. Incredible is, and you get to see a little bit of his ingenuity.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to the training montage. He gets a rip in his suit after that battle with the robot, and he arrives at Edna Mode's house, who's played by Brad Bird.
Right. Edna Mode is such a fantastic character, and she was inspired by Edith Head, who was a famous costume designer from the olden days.
Yes,
and
looks exactly like her.
Right, exactly. But her character is just so fantastic, and I love the idea of these superheroes who have a costume designer. You know, they kind of got, it wasn't as good as this, but they kind of did that a little bit in She-Hulk. Yeah. You know, where, you know, he was the designer was creating, you know, Daredevil's new suit, and he's the one that created her, I don't know what you call it, like leotard or something, even though it's not quite that, but I guess it's so it'd stretch with her transformation. And that's something very similar to this movie. You know, she designs Elastigirl's new suit, and it can stretch with Elastigirl, and Violet's suit can disappear with her, and Speed or Dash's suit can
is resistant to
friction and all that. Yeah, exactly. And she even makes one for Jack, even though they say Jack doesn't have any powers. But we'll get to that. I love the introduction of the kids as well, where Dash is in trouble for putting the tack on, and the teacher's like, right there, see? And you can't even tell that somebody has moved. And then I love Mr. Incredible's reaction to it. You know, he's supposed to be getting in trouble, and Mr. Incredible's like, they got you on tape and you still got away with it? He was like, oh, right.
You know what that reminded me of? Again, I've been watching this show since they put it on Disney Plus. It reminded me of Home Improvement.
Oh yeah,
because that's definitely something Tim Allen would do with one of his sons.
Absolutely, that was definitely a Tim Allen thing. You know, Tim Allen, I can see Tim Allen voicing Mr. Incredible and doing a pretty good job. But since he was Buzz Lightyear, I could see why they didn't use him. But definitely he definitely has a little bit of Tim Taylor vibes to him, you know? Yeah. Violet, we don't see at school, but at home at the dinner table, we see her powers, and we're introduced to Violet and how she's, you know, she's kind of the teenager who's closed off and stuff like that, which I really, thematically works with her powers too. She turns invisible, you know, and stuff.
Yeah, they pretty much do that with a lot of with a lot of these types of heroes, especially with teams. Right. Their powers are representative of their personality. They did that with the Fantastic Four. Johnny Storm is a hothead, so he turns into the Human Torch. Right, exactly. Reed Richards is always overextending himself, so he can stretch. So I mean, it makes sense.
And actually, I was gonna say Violet's powers are basically exactly like Sue Storm. Because she can turn invisible, and she has force fields and whatnot, which is pretty cool.
I was hoping that they would get Brad Bird to do the Fantastic Four live action movie, but they got what's his face?
Is John Watts doing it?
No, he was doing it. He's not doing it anymore.
That's right.
I think he's still producing, but he's not directing. I think, what is his name? Mac Shackman.
Oh yeah. He did he was part of WandaVision and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, he was the showrunner for WandaVision, so they're gonna give it to him, which is not a bad choice. Right. I liked WandaVision. I think it's one of the better Disney Plus shows.
I would say for me, I think that one was my favorite. Loki's really good too, but out of the shows so far, especially, you know, and there's a couple I haven't seen. I've seen a couple episodes of everything. but there's a couple I haven't finished, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
WandaVision was my favorite. I could not, like, WandaVision was one, and granted, it was the very first one, but it was like, I couldn't wait for the next episode.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning when you had no idea what was going on, and it was just basically the television shows, but there was that like mysterious part at the end where somebody like is watching it and closes the notebook. It was just you were just like, what is going on? I want to know what's happening.
I think it being first gives it the advantage because you have no idea what's going on. We're in a new phase. And it just had a really cool concept. Each episode was a different decade of television show. That's brilliant.
And not only that, but the theme songs that they came up with for the show were like top notch. They were just so good. I really should go back and rewatch
WandaVision.
And then when they get to like the Malcolm in the Middle era, like those opening credits were fantastic. And they even did like an Office kind of parody.
The Modern Family. That's what that was. Yeah, Modern Family.
Well, they did a Malcolm in the Middle one too. I think it was the 90s, right?
No, that one was the 90s, and then the 2000s one was Modern Family.
I got you. Yeah.
Who's your favorite character in this movie?
That's a good question.
I have two.
Do you? Well, let me hear yours.
Frozone and Dash.
Dash was what I was gonna say. Dash can have that little bit of a annoying little brother to him, but when Dash is good, he's really good. And I love when they get to the island and Holly Hunter, Elastigirl's character, is like, if you guys get in any, if anybody comes or, anything happens, I want you to use your powers, run as fast as you can. And he's like, as fast as I can? And he's like so excited to like finally be able to do it. And getting to see him run and especially kind of outwit some of these Syndrome guards and stuff was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about Syndrome's costume?
It works. His hair is insane.
Oh yeah, the costume itself is just so over the top and it's as super villainy as you can get.
Right, exactly. And when he shows up at the end and like to be the hero, you would think people would be like, "You're behind this, right?" Like they would just know. It works for the character, I think. But yeah, it is very over the top and very super villainy, especially the hair. I mean, I like the hair. It looks like he's like, it's almost like a flame type of thing, especially since he's, redhead. But the hair, it's crazy.
This movie does a really good job of balancing the tone, because with all its spectacle and over the top character design and set pieces, it brings it back down to what it really is. And it's a movie about family and really a movie about being yourself. Because these superheroes they're stuck living this life, at least for Mr. Incredible. He's living this life that doesn't truly fulfill him.
Right.
And I just think that's just one of the great things about Disney, but specifically Pixar. They just have these really hard hitting concepts that just really hit home, but they're so well done. You just get engrossed in the plot, and the subtext just smacks you upside the head. And that's one thing that this movie does really well. This movie has a lot of heart, which is one of the reasons why I consider it one of the greatest superhero movies ever. Because I mean, when I was watching, I was like, this movie's flawless. Like there's nothing there's nothing that I can say about it negatively. Like it's flawless. It's got great characters. It's got a fantastic concept that was way ahead of its time. And the message behind it is so powerful and resonant. But it's a really, really fun and funny movie. Like it's flawless.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I mean, and you're right. Pixar for a long time kept putting out these amazing movies that were funny, were entertaining, but also had emotional scenes in them and really kind of pulled on your heartstrings or had characters that you really connected with. And you're absolutely right. In the beginning, Elastigirl kind of has accepted it, even though I think by the end of the movie, I think she's happy to be back kind of in the game. But Mr. Incredible especially is, like you said, unfulfilled. And I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to, working these jobs we don't really care about. There's other things that we would much rather be doing, especially as someone like me who kind of would like to be creative for a living. It can be, I can definitely relate, even though I'm not a superhero. There's something else I would much rather be doing. And for whatever reason, you can't be doing it. And so I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. And I think this movie does a great job of that. And I love too, that in the beginning, Mr. Incredible is putting on a mask with Frozone and going out and fighting crime secretly because, he just has that kind of desire and can't tell anybody he's doing it because Elastigirl would be mad and it's against the law now. And
right.
I do love too that Frozone is like, maybe once we can actually just go bowling and do the thing we tell our wives that we're doing.
And going back to what you said about Elastigirl, like kind of accepted it. I think like her thing. So like what I said about Reed Richards, his power is representative of him overextending himself. She has the same power, but it's a different aspect. She can adapt to any situation, which is kind of how rubber is. You can it has multiple uses. Very, very formidable. You can stretch it for I don't know how much. The elasticity. That's why she's called Elastigirl,
right?
Because she represents a more abstract version of elasticity, which I thought that it is awesome. It is brilliant as a for character development. And I love that how they like in the next movie, not to get too much into it, they make it her movie.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about that. I've only seen that one once. So I'm looking forward to rewatching that one and talking about that one at some point.
As am I.
But you're right. And I think that maybe what you said about her being adaptable makes a lot of sense. Like it may not be that she has accepted it so much as she's just adapted to that life. And so she doesn't necessarily, maybe she doesn't even realize that she kind of is missing what she used to have because she's just kind of adapted to this new life of being, I think she's a stay-at-home. She's a housewife, basically.
She is.
And so she's adapted to that life. He never adapted to it, is the thing.
Right. Or at least now it feels like he's just going through the motions. Maybe at one point he had adapted to it, but now he had gotten that itch.
Yep.
So, and of course, we cannot talk about this movie and not mention the now legendary Michael Giacchino.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Was this
this score is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite scores from Michael Giacchino.
It also has that kind of timeless not existing to the past or present, kind of feel to it. It has a little bit of that 60s kind of vibe, but it also has a very superhero quality to it. And so reminded me
a lot of Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, he would go on to score Mission Impossible 3 and the Brad Bird one, Ghost Protocol.
Yep.
So I was going to say, I'd have to look at Michael Giacchino's IMDb to know like what his earlier films were, but this was probably one of the first movies where I where I like kind of took note of his name as the composer. And
I wasn't really familiar with him until Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like as far as like knowing who it was that I was listening to.
Right,
it was Doctor Strange.
For me, I think it was Up, because I thought the music in Up was so good, and I think he won an Oscar for it.
Yeah, I believe he did.
So I think that's when I first kind of started taking note of who this Michael Giacchino guy was. I think it might have been before that, but I know for sure I was really, really impressed with his score for Up.
Yeah, I know I said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. When it's all said and done, he's gonna be on the Mount Rushmore of composers.
I think you're right.
Because it's just banger after banger.
That's true.
And he's kind of like taken over the superhero genre from Hans Zimmer, and now he kind of like owns the genre.
Yeah, that's true. Hans Zimmer kind of got burned out on the super, even though he keeps coming back. You know, he was like, he said he was done, and then he did X-Men, then he did Wonder Woman 84, and I don't know if there's another one. But yeah,
I think he's having too much fun doing Dune, man.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I can't wait to. I'm gonna buy that.
That was a passion project for both him and Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. I can't wait for Dune Part 2.
Oh man. I can't wait to review that.
Yeah, Dune is on the list, but John wants to read the book. I know John hasn't really done very many episodes with us, but you and I could do it because John, who knows when John's going to read that book. It's a big book too, so.
Yeah, I've been tempted to watch the original, but I don't want to be spoiled for what happens in Dune Part 2.
Right. Yeah, wait till after Dune Part 2, then watch the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't say anything. I was going to say we should do the original too, but yeah, you're right. We're going to have to wait till after November.
Yeah, I don't want to be spoiled at all.
Yeah.
Because I went into Dune completely blind, didn't read the book, had no idea what it was about. I came out of it, I was like, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I was like, this is the type of science fiction I have been longing for.
Anyway, back to Incredibles. So the basic premise of this is he gets hired by Mirage to kind of do these superhero missions, but then we find out that it was all just a plan from Syndrome to get Mr. Incredible to this island and basically kill him.
Mm-hmm. He's killed off all the other supers beforehand with other iterations of that of Kronos. I think that's what the name of the robot is, Kronos.
Right.
Because he finds Gazer Beam in the caves, which I thought was a cool scene.
That is a cool scene, and it's also again a little dark for a Disney movie.
Yes,
to see this Disney animated movie, I guess you could say, because it felt like something from Pirates of the Caribbean.
No, absolutely. This movie does. I mean, this movie does that throughout. Like, it takes so many risks with the dark choices that it makes.
Yeah,
like. He was gonna strangle Mirage. I mean, he wasn't really gonna do it, but like the fact that he threatened to do it,
right?
I would never think that would be in a Disney movie,
right? And Syndrome being like, "Go ahead and do it," like
like.
And also, we the audience know that they're fine, but when the plane gets blown up and Mr. Incredible thinks that he's lost his entire family, that's emotional.
Very.
And then he's like, I've got nothing left to lose type, it's like you said earlier, this movie is flawless.
Yes, it is.
And Syndrome is a not nice guy, willing to kill
children,
his wife and children, just because he wouldn't let him be a sidekick 15 years ago.
No, it's a little bit more than that. He basically told him, "You'll never be good enough." Which,
well, that's true.
Imagine hearing that as a kid. Like, don't get me wrong, that does not give you the right to kill children.
Right.
But that's a pretty tough pill to swallow.
Tough pill to swallow. Good way of putting it. You were talking about Elastigirl being adaptable. This is one of my favorite scenes too. So the plane just blew up. And they're falling. And of course, she's knocked out at first, and the kids are just freaking out as they're essentially falling to their deaths. But I love how she becomes a parachute.
Yes.
I think that is just amazing. It's a good visual too, and like
Yeah.
again, the animation, even though it's a little dated and doesn't look quite as smooth as stuff does now, especially the water, it still is amazing. It's fun to see, and it looks so good.
Yeah, water's hard to do, man.
Yeah, it is very
so hard to do.
And it doesn't look bad, but again, you can just tell it's come a long way.
Yes.
So I know you said he was one of your favorite characters, but let's elaborate on Frozone for a second here. Played by the great Samuel L. Jackson. He was again perfectly cast.
Yes, sir. It has one of if not the best scene in the movie, or the funniest scene in the movie. Yeah. Where's my super suit? Where is my super suit?
I remember that one from the trailer too, which is pretty good.
Yeah, Frozone is awesome. He again another character with tremendous charisma. All pun intended, he is very cool.
Yeah. I love too how he, kind of glides across the ice like a speed skater. I thought that was a really cool choice to make him kind of move that way, very much similar to how like Olympic speed skaters skate.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was it worked really, really well.
And that's we only got it the one time in the X-Men movies, but that's how Iceman is represented in the comics. He doesn't necessarily speed skate, but he does glide on like an ice bridge.
Yeah. And I think Frozone has probably the best name out of all the superheroes in this movie. Frozone. It's like, that's perfect.
Yeah, definitely. My only nitpick, I kind of wish we had gotten to see a few more superheroes like in the past.
Yeah.
Just maybe 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, we get a tiny glimpse of them during Edna Node's scene when she's like, no capes. And she talks about all the people that were undone basically by their capes. And one of them gets pulled into like a jet engine. And I love how that comes back later. How Syndrome is trying to get away and ends up getting pulled into his he gets undone by his cape. I thought it was amazing. I also like too how Syndrome's plan goes awry almost immediately. He shows up in the city, or actually I guess Kronos shows up in the city, and then he arrives ready to fight the robot, and he hits like a button and it kind of works once, but then because he's made Kronos so smart, it knows that, hey, this guy's controlling me. I could just get rid of this device and I'll be good to go. Right. And so it like shoots the controls off of Syndrome's wrist or whatever, and then Syndrome's like, and then has no power over it anymore. And he's not an actual superhero, so he's useless, basically.
Right. And you would think that he would have thought of that because he's so smart, but he's so full of himself and has so much hubris
by his own arrogance. Yeah, exactly.
Undone by his own arrogance. What's your favorite scene in the movie? That's an easy one for me. It's the scene that's about to come up.
Which is what?
When they all come together for the first time and using their powers.
Yeah. I was gonna say I really like when Dash is basically the whole family really is fighting the Syndrome's kind of henchman. But when we see Dash getting to use his powers to the extent that he can for the very first time, like seeing Dash realize that he can run on water, it's like what?
Yeah, so we have we both have the same favorite scene.
Yeah. I also really like when they are fighting Kronos in the city too. I think that and Frozone comes kind of to their aid, and I really like that scene a lot as well. That whole third act kind of resolution. The
third act is awesome.
Yeah.
And I like how they're on the way to the fight and they can't decide on which way to go.
Right. It's like, if I take that exit, I'll go downtown. Yeah. So even though Syndrome's suit is over the top, I'm looking at it now. I actually really like how he incorporated that big S into the suit, I think it actually kind of looks pretty good. Pretty cool. I wonder, do they ever explain like how Syndrome paid for all this?
No,
Okay.
they don't.
I mean, he's a supervillain, and it's one of those things where you just kind of accept it. He's got his own island, and he's got his own monorail on the island, and his own
rocket ship.
Yeah, all this stuff. But
I just assumed that he was just some kind of tech mogul.
Gotcha. He did invent the iPad, I guess.
Steve Jobs with syndrome.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think this will be a pretty obvious rating for us, but I'll go first.
1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. Yeah, terrible. I'm never gonna watch it again. No, I think we've kind of gushed about this movie, and honestly, other than your nitpick, we haven't said anything negative about it. And I was trying to think of something. I was like, do I have any problems with this movie? Is there anything that I just don't like? And the answer is no. So it's not. It should be. It should be in like my top 10 superhero movies. I don't know if it is, but it's so good that it really should be. But for me, it's a 5 out of 5. I think it's a pretty much perfect movie.
Yeah, everything you said. For me, it is in my top 10, but it's closer to like 9 or 10.
Right.
Because like we said, we've been gushing over it for the last hour or so, and it's perfect. It is flawless. There's nothing wrong with this movie. The characters are very well balanced. They're all interesting. They're all very different. The subtext hits home, and it's got a great concept, and it's just a all around fun movie that we always talk about how when you watch something as a kid and you don't necessarily understand all the jokes, but you still like it anyway.
Yeah.
This movie gets better as you get older because you can understand some of the darker themes and the darker plot points about it, and it's still fun. That doesn't take away from how enjoyable this movie is. So 5 out of 5, man.
Yep, I agree. Well, we'd love to know what you think about The Incredibles. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave us a comment on our Instagram or tweet at us. Both handles are at cinemaheroes. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, leave a comment down below what you think of the movie. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you however you want to reach out to us. But I think that wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.